This is Andrew Leon with Marlinspike Consulting. In this video, I'm going to show how to customize the ribbon in Office 2013. I'll be using Word 2013 as the example, but it works the same in the other applications in the Office 2013 suite as well, like Excel or Outlook or PowerPoint. I'm going to show how to control how much space the ribbon consumes at the top of the screen, and also how to change what commands actually display in the ribbon. So to start with, let's take a look at the ribbon display options button in the upper right hand corner, right next to the minimize button. If I click on this button, I've got three options that show how much space the ribbon is going to consume at the top of the screen. I can choose to hide it altogether to show just the names of the tabs, which are printed in the text, or I can show the tabs and the commands as well, which is the default option. If I choose to show just the tabs, by clicking on a tab, that will drop down the additional commands that are shown on that tab. And if I want that to stay dropped down, I can use the push pin button on the right-hand corner of the ribbon to make that stay down. If I choose the auto hide ribbon, the ribbon disappears altogether. I can use the ellipse in the upper right corner to make that show up again. I might use that if I had a lot of text in a Word document or a spreadsheet that had numbers that I wanted to see all on the screen at once without having to scroll through them. So I wanted to take advantage of all of the space available to me on my monitor to do that. But the default is to show tabs and commands both, and that consumes some space at the top, but it makes it easiest for you to be able to go and quickly click on the command that you're looking for. Okay, that's how to control how much space the ribbon consumes at the top of the window. The second thing we'll look at is how to control what commands show up on the different sections of the ribbon. So to do that, I need to customize the ribbon, and to get to my Customize Ribbon window, I can do a couple of different things. First of all, I can right-click on an area in the ribbon and choose Customize the Ribbon. That will take me into my Word options with the Customize Ribbon section selected. Or I can click the File tab to go backstage in Word, and then click the Options, and then click the Customize Ribbon button there. It will take me to the exact same place. It's just a choice, your choice of whichever method you want to use. In this Word Options window, I have two columns of commands. On the right-hand side, I have my list of existing tabs in the ribbon with a check mark next to the ones that are displayed. Notice that the Developer tab does not have a check mark in it by default, because that one is hidden by default. But if I put a check mark there, that will display it if I wanted to do things like macros or forms or some of the other options that are available in that tab. And on the left-hand side, I have the list of available commands that I can choose from and can use to populate the different groups in that ribbon. They're grouped here according to categories. The popular commands category is the one that's showing by default, but I can choose to show all commands, or I can group them by the different tabs that are in there as well. So let's go ahead and do an example where we create a new tab. I'll create a couple of groups in that tab and then populate those groups with some commands from the left-hand side of this list. So wherever I have selected a tab on the right-hand side, my new tab will show up immediately after that. So I'm going to click the Home tab here, and then click New tab, and you see my new tab shows up right after the Home tab. I have to rename the tab and the group because it's just given the name of New tab and New group by default, which we're going to want to rename that to something more useful. So I'll click on my new tab and then click the Rename button, and I will call this one Marlinspike. I've typed that in upper and lower case, although by default the tabs that are already there are displayed in all capital letters. This one will give this a contrast to show me that which one is the one that I've custom made. And then my new group, I'll click on that and then click Rename. And for this one, I will call that my Editing group. I'll give it a check mark icon there. I'll then click the New Group button again to create a second group, and then the Rename button to name this one my Sales Workflow. Maybe I have a sales department that does a lot of mail merges, and so I want to create a group that groups the different commands that they use most frequently together so they can more efficiently work through that workflow. Okay, so now I have my Marlinspike tab with my editing and my sales workflows below there. So I've clicked on the editing group first, and I'll add a handful of editing related commands. The way that I do that is on my left-hand side, I just click on the command that I want to add, copy in this case, and then click the Add button to move that over to the group that I've had selected. It automatically goes down to the next one on the list, which is Cut, so I'll click the Add button a second time, so now Copy and Cut are both there. I'll scroll down a little bit and click on Paste to add that one, and then I'll choose Undo and add that one as well. If I add one and I didn't intend to add it, like the Save one, I can click on that on the left-hand side and then click, or the right-hand side rather, and then Remove will send it back to the left-hand side to take it out of my group. Okay, so now I've got Copy, Cut, Paste, and Undo in my editing group. Let's do the same thing to add a few mail merge related ones to my sales workflow. I'm going to change the category on the left-hand side, and instead of popular commands, I could choose all commands. That gives me a list of every available command in alphabetical order, but the list is pretty long, and it can sometimes be a little cumbersome to go and find the command in that list. So if it's one of the more commonly used commands, or if it's one that's grouped, that's already displaying in an existing tab, I find it a little easier to choose all tabs, and then I can just find it under the group in this case. So I'm going to use some mail merge related ones, which I can find under mailings, and I'll just go in here and add a handful of these mail merge related buttons that would typically be used for somebody who is creating a mail merge. We'll just add a few of these. They're a little easier to find here in this case because I just select the tab, and so they're already displaying in the way that they would be displayed in that tab. Okay, so I've added a handful of those mail merge related commands that are showing under my sales workflow group now under the Marlinspike tab. In a moment I'll click OK because I'm done adding my commands, but two other buttons I want to point out before I do that. One of them is the Reset button. That allows me to reset the Word installation back to its original defaults if I decide that I don't want to have these customizations to the ribbon, like my new tabs and my new groups and commands, display anymore. So this gives you some more freedom to play around with this. If you don't need to be so concerned that you're going to mess something up or make it so that Word's not as useful, you can click your Reset button to reset those. On the flip side, if I do have some of these that I would like to import or export over to a new computer, like say the sales workflow here, that I would like to export that out and let the other people in the sales department use it as well, I can use this import and export to export a customization file containing these customizations and then import that into a different installation of Office. In this case, I'm going to skip over both of those and just click OK. And you'll see that my Marlinspike tab is now showing just to the right of the Home tab where I added it. When I click it, see I have my 4 editing related items under that group, and then my sales workflow items that were the mail merge commands under that group. Note that I could have actually added these under one of the default tabs as well, as long as I create my own new group to hold those new commands. I could have done it that way also, but some people prefer to have their own separate tab for these. Okay, so that's how to add commands to the Office 2013 ribbon. I also demonstrated earlier how to hide or unhide the ribbon up at the top. Hopefully you'll find those ribbon customization options useful, and hopefully you'll be able to use them yourself to make yourself more productive when you're using Office 2013.